Welcome to the City Current Show. I'm your host, Jeremy Park. We're always honored to bring you inspiring stories of individuals and organizations making a difference and powering the good. And in this case, we're going to be talking about mental health and a huge upcoming event. We're honored to be joined by Allison White, supervisor of the Dennis H. Jones Living Well Network with Methodist Le Bonheur Healthcare. How are you doing?
I'm great, Jeremy. Thank you.
Definitely, definitely honored to have you on talking about all the good you do. And so let's start, before we talk about the upcoming event, let's start with some context, a little bit of history. Give us some history for the Dennis H. Jones Living Well Network.
So the Living Well Network was created about 10 years ago by the widow of Dennis H. Jones, who used to be a top executive at FedEx. And Dennis was suffering from chronic depression for many years, unbeknownst to his family. They were unaware of the severity of it. And he died by suicide. And afterwards, his wife and daughter wanted to help others through this tragedy, and they endowed money to Methodist, and we developed this program called the Dennis H. Jones Living Well Network.
And so go ahead and talk about what you do, because it encompasses a lot. There's a ton of free resources out there, obviously events that raise the awareness and get more people plugged in. So talk about what all you do.
So we do several things. The main thing we do is we provide free assessment and referral services to anyone in the community. They do not have to be associated with Methodist to use our service. Anyone can call us. Myself and my staff will do a psychosocial assessment over the phone. So we'll assess their needs, and then we'll connect them to the right behavioral health provider in the county, city, outside the county or city. And so I like to call us a concierge service, Jeremy, because we're taking the stress off someone who is already stressed or already struggling with a mental health issue. We're taking that stress away, and we're finding the right provider based on where you live, based on your insurance, based on or no insurance, based on your needs. So we're taking that stress away, and we're finding the right provider that we're going to connect you with. And we're going to keep with you until you connect with that provider to make sure you got the help you needed.
I like that analogy of the concierge service. That's good. I like that.
Yes. Sometimes it can be easier to explain if you put it in terms such as that. So we really want to be able to walk with the person and make sure that they're getting the help that they need. So that's the main thing that we do. We also provide free mental health education to anyone in the community. So I tell people, if there's a behavioral health issue, I have a PowerPoint for it. So we go out to churches, we go out to civic groups, organizations, professional organizations, and we provide, again, mental health education. We provide presentations to anyone about anything. If it's under the behavioral health umbrella, we'll come out and we'll do a presentation for you.
I know this will tie into the event and also to Dennis H. Jones himself, but talk about, for men, the stigma around mental health and your efforts around that, because I think there's a big push, especially for men, even coming out of the pandemic, to really seek help when they need help.
So you're right. So how about it, Jeremy? I give you some statistics. Did you know that suicide is the 7th leading cause of death in men? 7th. It is, if you take all the suicides in this country, 78% of them are men. 78% of all suicides are men. So, also men are 4 times more likely to die by suicide than women. That's significant. And also, if you look at stats, 6 million men, it's estimated 6 million men will suffer from some type of depression within a given year. That number is actually probably higher because a lot don't report it. And so those numbers are staggering. And so you ask, well, why is that? Well, there can be a variety of reasons, Jeremy. I think one of the biggest barriers is social stigma, right? Men, traditionally, I think a lot of men are taught they're the breadwinners of the home. They have to be the strong ones, and it's sort of that social stigma and that standard that men feel like they may have to live up to. So don't show weakness, you know. And you hear the saying, "Boys don't cry," you know, which is detrimental to our boys, you know. So the social stigma is certainly something that's a huge barrier in men seeking out treatment. And we know that men do not seek out treatment as much as women do. So also I think too, when you look at, again, why men don't seek treatment, maybe men are not aware of their emotions, again, because of that social stigma. So when a man feels maybe some sadness, or maybe they've lost interest in their activities or hobbies, or they're fatigued, or they're not sleeping well, they might not notice that might be a mental health issue. They might be struggling with depression or anxiety. So awareness is also another issue. And maybe a lot of men will brush it off as something else. Oh, I'm just stressed at work, as opposed to it really being a behavioral health issue.
Yeah. Talk about how that ties in to, we'll get to the upcoming event, but talk about how that ties into your efforts to raise awareness and open up the floodgates for the access to these resources and this concierge service.
So part of what we do, and we're very passionate about that over here at Living Well Network, is that we want to advocate in our communities for better access to mental health, more access, and we want to advocate for programs and funding for mental health and behavioral health programming. It's so important. So we really want to be on the advocate side, whether it's grassroots or state level or federal level. We're really big advocates for that. And I think that it's important that we're out there and we're talking about this, because, you know, if we talk about it more, then people are more willing to share their stories, because we're normalizing that, right, Jeremy? So if we normalize behavioral health issues, we're more likely to talk about it and be less scared to talk about it.
How have you seen the impact of the pandemic and coming out for not just men, for women, for everyone? How have you seen that? Has it increased in terms of the number of, you know, calls and people reaching out? What's been the impact so far that you've seen coming out of the pandemic?
Well, absolutely, it's increased. So from 2019 to 2022, our referrals increased 94%. That's huge. So just last year alone, our referrals increased 22%. So it is the pandemic, this collective experience that we have all experienced together, has really created some mental health issues in some people who were already struggling. It increased some of those symptoms. And I think that people, you know, recognize we're all vulnerable. Wow, we're all vulnerable, and I want to live my life to the fullest. And so let me reach out for help, and let me see if I can, you know, improve or get better. So the pandemic significantly increased the need. Unfortunately, the services for the need hasn't really caught up, you know, with that. So we definitely are here, and we want to advocate for more programming for those with behavioral health issues, especially those that are underinsured or not insured.
And that leads us to the upcoming event. So we've talked about the why and what you do, and obviously the need for increased services. And so go ahead and dive into this big upcoming event. It's an annual event that you all host. So go ahead and dive in.
So it is our 9th annual. So we've been doing this for 9 years. So it's our 9th annual Living Well Network Mental Health Breakfast. It's going to be over at the Hilton in East Memphis. And we have people from all walks of life there, from corporations to clinicians to anyone in the community. We have about 600 people that usually come to our event, and we have a keynote speaker every year. And our keynote speaker this year is Joe Pantoliano. I will show you a little picture. Some of you might recognize him from The Sopranos. Remember back in the 90s, if you're a 90s child. And The Matrix, he's been in some Matrix movies. And back in the 80s, he was in The Goonies too. I remember that movie, but he's an Emmy Award winner, actor and producer. And so he's going to be talking about his struggle with chronic depression and how that's affected him personally, but also his life in Hollywood. And so we're very excited about that. We also have, after our keynote program, we have what we call a breakout session. And that's where we really like to continue the conversation and have an extra educational session for our clinicians in the room or anybody in the room that wants to come and learn more. And this year we have a dynamic speaker. His name is Charles Winton, and he's a licensed professional counselor in town. And he's going to be talking about all things men's mental health. Okay, so I am very, very excited about that. We're very excited about that because as you and I have talked about, Jeremy, we don't talk about men's mental health enough. And now it's timely, it's relevant, and we need to be talking about it more collectively. So I'm very excited that that's going to be our breakout session. And so that is our event. And we have sponsorships available. So you could just get on our Methodist Healthcare website and sign up for a sponsorship or a ticket. And we'd love to have you.
What do you hope that attendees walk away experiencing? So you kind of mentioned, obviously, the breakout session and that piece of it too, but what do you hope overall that attendees walk away experiencing?
I want attendees to walk away with a sense of, how do I say this? Really a sense of, wow, this man was up here talking about his mental health story. You know, we've had great speakers in our 8 years in the past since we've done this that really talk about their story, and that resonates with people. Someone's personal story of mental health or trauma or how they got through a situation in their life. And I want people to walk away thinking it's okay not to be okay, and it's okay to tell my story. Because again, I know you're friends with Michael Drake, and I love what Michael Drake always says. He says, when I tell my story, it gives other people permission to tell their story. And so I want people leaving inspired. I also want people leaving knowing that it's okay to talk about it and to get the help that you need. So that's the main goal that I have when people leave our event.
You mentioned Michael Drake, obviously a very good friend and a huge part of the City Current story, and obviously a huge part of the Dennis H. Jones Living Well Network story. And when you look at, him being an advocate and a champion for mental health and being an ambassador, and just like you said, him sharing the story of his personal storyline and his family's around depression and suicide and things like that have been a part of his family, it does give power and permission for others to share their story. And he's got so many amazing stories of people, once he shares his story, how they open up. And I think all of this goes to that higher purpose of opening the conversations, opening the floodgates to normalize these sort of conversations around mental health and people getting help. And I think when you see celebrities, when you see business leaders and community leaders and those you respect, when they start sharing the adversities and the challenges and the issues that they've faced personally, all of a sudden you realize, wait a second, I'm not alone. And it is important for me to go get help. And so when you're talking to people for the first time and they reach out, what are the questions you like to ask? What are the things that you're looking for, going back to that concierge service, that help you figure out where to guide someone?
So I want to ask, and I'm not going to keep someone on the phone very long, but I want to get enough information. So I'm going to make sure to connect you with the right person. So you're not having to go several different people to find the right person. I want to know your current symptoms. Tell me what's going on. And that's how I lay it out. Well, tell me what's going on. How long have you been feeling like this? Have you struggled with this before? If so, for how long? Have you ever been to therapy or any kind of treatment? I want to know that. I want to know what their current support systems are. That's important, especially for people who don't have the support system that they need in their life. I want to know those specific things, but current issues are important because I want to know how you're feeling, what's going on, did something trigger this? And if something triggered this, what was it? Was it an event? Was it a situation? And that helps me determine what kind of treatment they might need and the best person for that caller.
So the next step on our end is, you mentioned the event, you mentioned all the resources and everything, the concierge service. Where do we go to take those next steps? So talk about website, social media, phone number.
Sure.
Where do we reach out?
So we have a website. It's www.thelivingwellnetwork.org. We're real proud of our website. We redesigned it right before the pandemic. So there's lots of information and articles on there that are written by counselors in the community. You can also reach out to us from our website. You can call us Monday through Friday, 8 to 4:30 at 901-762-8558. So those are the best two ways. And we also have a Facebook page where I post inspirational memes and, information regarding mental health. And if you just type in the Living Well Network, it'll pop up on Facebook. So those are all the ways that you can get in touch with us.
Allison White, supervisor of the Dennis H. Jones Living Well Network with Methodist Le Bonheur Healthcare. Thank you for all you and your amazing team do. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thanks, Jeremy.